The 3rd of July cast grey clouds across the world of football. Football lost its legends, its icons. And on this somber note, I welcome you to a brand new edition of Sports Pizza. My name is Edwin Onyebolise. We have a lot in store for you, from football to tennis, Formula One. And of course, don't forget, we have the Tipsters Corner, where we give you the very best of tips going into the weekend. As always, I do this in company of my man, Bankole Oladuni. Together we'll make sense of all that we have in store for you. But first, we need to go on a short break. When we return, we set the ball rolling. Welcome back. This is Sports Pizza. As always, it's my pleasure to introduce Bankole Oladuni. Bankole, what's up? How you doing?
I'm good, Edwin. How about you?
I'm good. It's been a very whirlwind 7 days. Football, of course, was thrown into the morning mood where 3 players, but 2 prominent ones, lost their lives. Jota and his brother Andre Silva. And on the same day, the iconic Super Eagles legendary goalkeeper, former captain Peter Rufai, also lost his battle to illness. Overall, it's been like what I described as a somber mood in the football community.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember the morning of the Jota's news. I was on my way writing exams, and at first I saw it on Twitter. I thought it was one of those fake news peddlers who are always desperate for likes, and then I had to refresh again, and I saw it again and I dismissed it. I dismissed it like 2 or 3 times before I realized that, oh, this might actually be true, and then it just broke my heart. Jota was someone who was always a threat to whenever I played. He came into a team that had Firmino, Mane, and Salah, and he still made his own impact. He still made his presence felt, and that is how he would be remembered. Someone who gave so much to the game, even when he was not even on the field of play. One of my fondest memory of Jota was during the lockdown. When the Premier League arranged a FIFA tournament, for players, and he had this clash with Trent. It was at Wolves at that point. He had this clash with Trent where they played the final, and he defeated Trent. I don't think Trent had an idea that he was one of the best FIFA players around, and he was the joy he felt at that moment. You would think it was more than just a FIFA tournament, and that's how he is. That's how he has always been. I've listened to so many people who had close encounters, and with Diego Jota, he has been described as one of the nicest persons, and to think that someone who was at the peak of his life, someone who was at the peak of his happiness, to just lose his life in that manner is actually quite heartbreaking.
And also a sad one, a mother losing 2 sons on the same day, heartbreak. Not just Jota, but closer home, Peter Rufai. In fact, growing up as kids, we didn't call him Peter Rufai, it was Keeper Rufai. We called him Dodo Mayana, as he was fondly remembered. 65 appearances for the Super Eagles of Nigeria, 1 goal scored. For those who don't know, he scored in the AFCON qualifier against Ethiopia. The Super Eagles defeated Ethiopia 6-0. He scored a penalty in that game. 2 FIFA World Cup appearances. Who forget the 1994 AFCON triumph, where he was magnificent in the final against Zambia. We can go on and on and on and on about Dodo Mayana, but words are not enough to describe what it meant to fans. Absolutely.
For our generation, the 94 team was probably the first Super Eagles that we resonated with. The first Super Eagles team that we
grew up
idolizing. So, and Peter Rufai was one of the best goalkeepers at that moment. To us, he was probably the best goalkeeper
in the world.
I mean, even when I registered, was it to go the social media? My nickname at that time was Dodo Mayana, to show you how much I really like Peter Rufai. And just a couple of weeks ago, we had him on our other platform, and he was still full of life.
But he still looked frail.
Yeah, he looked frail, but you could still see the way he carried himself. He still had that class about him, and he was actually quite sad to see that one of our legends, is no longer with us. Peter Rufai, paved the way for a lot of Nigerian goalkeepers. He paved the way for a lot of African goalkeepers in general. So he's always going to be remembered as a legend of the sport, not just in the world, but also especially in Nigeria.
In this part of the world, Bankole, we do a terrible job at immortalizing our legends. I don't think it would be bad if we rechristen the Golden Globe Award in the Nigerian Premier League to the Peter Rufai Award. I don't think that's a bad gesture.
Yeah, but I think the reason why we struggle to immortalize our legend is because we find it difficult to find something of value to attach them with. If the NPFL is a league that is striving at the highest level, it would have been easier to attach the name Peter Rufai to something of class, something that is prestigious. Can you describe the NPFL as something like that? Can you describe the state of the league as something like that? So I think that is why we always struggle. No. I mean, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
But I don't think that is what we should do. I think there are so many other things of value, that we can attach to Peter Rufai's name to. I think there's a stadium, probably a section of the National Stadium, or the Teslim Balogun Stadium, or just something that I feel carries much more value than the Golden Gloves of the NPFL, or probably like a tournament, that's a yearly tournament that we would regard as the Peter Rufai tournament. Also, I think he's someone who impacted our lives, not just with football, but also made a lot of people believe that they could be footballers. So I think we have to ensure that we treat his memory, treat his name with same measure.
All right, Bankole, moving on from this somber mood to something more positive. The Falcons are flying high in Morocco, the Women's African Cup of Nations. Beyond the group stage, I don't think we have a problem with the group stage. Yeah. Beyond the group stage, how far do you think the Falcons can go?
I think we'll get to the finals. Yes.
That's a bold one.
I think we'll get to the finals. I don't think it's that bold, especially when you consider how Nigeria is in football.
But the last couple of years,
the last couple of years have been difficult. But I also think our major competitors are South Africa and Morocco. And South Africa, a couple of their best players are not in this tournament.
True.
So, and they are not fully at their full strength, at this tournament. So I think we might have that advantage over them. So I think our threats would be Morocco and to a certain extent the Zambians.
Okay.
So I think the final is where is the minimum that I expect us to be, and whoever it is that we get to the final, I also think that we probably stand a chance at lifting the trophy itself.
All right, Bankole is positive. I am positive. The final is a big, bold prediction. But hey, as sports pizza here, we fully throw our weight behind the Super Falcons of Nigeria. It is Mission X, and we hope that Mission X will be accomplished at the end of the tournament. We'll go on a short break. When we return, we have loads and loads of conversation from the transfer market. Arsenal are doing big, big things. Welcome back from that short break. We head straight to our transfer corner, and we start off with Arsenal. Over the weekend, Zubimendi's transfer from Real Sociedad to Arsenal Football Club was finalized, and Arsenal fans are excited, expectedly excited. There's the imminent signing of Gyokores from Sporting Lisbon, but let's start with Zubimendi. For Zubimendi, is he the equivalent of Rodri in midfield?
Far from it. I think the difference between the two of them is the fact that Rodri has immense athleticism that you don't see in Zubimendi. Zubimendi reminds me of the Jorginho at Napoli. He reminds me of someone who, on the ball, has the ability to control the tempo of the game, has the ability to keep things running smoothly. He's not one to contribute immensely offensively. He's also not one to win enough physical duels. So I struggle to see how he would affect this team individually all on his own. But maybe as a team, he might complement the likes of Declan Rice, complement the likes of Mikel Merino in midfield. But I don't think he's the ceiling raiser that a lot of people has made him out to be. There are a lot of deficiencies, gaps in his game that this Arsenal team necessarily do not need to have.
But again, if Pep Guardiola wanted him, Real Madrid wanted him, I think there's something there. And yeah, he's not physically imposing like Rodri, but I think defensively, why not being athletic? That's awareness, the timing, his positional awareness complements or mitigates his lack of athleticism. I think that's there. And also, he's tidy on the ball. We saw him at the Euros where Rodri was subbed up. In the final, a crucial game, he stepped up like he wasn't out of place. I understand your doubts, but holistically, I think he's one of the best holding midfielders in the game.
Yes, and that says a lot about the game at the moment. It says a lot about the state of holding midfielders in the game. Like I said, it reminds me of a Jorginho. He relies more on his brain than his physicality, and that's not a bad thing. It's just that in some certain instances, you would also struggle with the pace of the game.
Okay.
Arsenal are a team who didn't struggle much in build-up. So him coming with his ability on the ball is not necessarily the significant upgrade that a lot of people are making it out to be. Arsenal were one of the best teams in the league playing out from the back.
Okay.
Even with a Declan Rice, even with a Mikel Merino, they were still sufficiently able to carry out the ball from their goalkeeper forward. So him coming might improve that, but it's not the significant improvements that a lot of people are making it out to be. What they need him for is his defensive ability, which I don't think he has. We saw Rodri in Spain. He was at Villarreal, he was at Atletico Madrid, two of the most physical teams in the league.
Yeah.
We've seen it several. Sergio Busquets also does not get enough credit for how physical he was. He was even you couldn't get the ball off him to show you how physical he was. I don't think you can say the same thing about Zubimendi. I've seen a lot of his games with Real Sociedad. Whenever the pace of the game is on the high side, he struggles. On the ball, is fantastic. On the ball is like I said, he keeps things sticking. You know, he finds the nearest teammate and ensures that the tempo of the game is played at his team's pace.
Yeah.
But whenever you're up against some of the best teams, whenever you're up against a team who would run at you, Zubimendi is not that type of person you can rely on.
I think you're seeing it from the prism of Real Sociedad. Now he's coming to a team where 60-70% of the time they have possession. 60-70% of the time they are on the front foot. Now, what does he offer them when they are against transition teams? I think that's the question, and I think that's where you're coming from. But overall, how significant is this signing to Arsenal's aspiration winning the league?
Like I said, he improves them, but I don't think he improves them to the point of them winning the league.
Does Gyokores improve them?
Yes. Gyokores addresses a problem that they've had.
Okay.
Zubimendi does not necessarily address a problem that they have. He improves a situation they're already capable of, but it does not solve a problem. It does not solve a deficiency. Gyokores does that. A left winger does that. You looked at Arsenal last season and you never thought, oh, this is a team that needs a defensive midfielder. Yeah. You looked at Arsenal and you never thought, oh, this is a team that needs defensive reinforcement. What we thought of was attacking reinforcement, and Gyokores comes in and solves that. Zubimendi, yes, he improves what they have, but I don't think adding Zubimendi to that team alone would get them to the Premier League.
So we have Zubimendi, we have Gyokores. There's the situation of Noni Madueke. What does he solve for Arsenal? Where does he? Because his best games for Chelsea have come up the right. There's a certain Saka there. On the left, you have Martinelli. I don't think
you have Trossard.
I don't think you're going to pay 40-50 million pounds for a backup to Saka.
Yeah, so this is where it gets interesting, because I think Arsenal have made it a habit of buying an unnecessary player in every transfer window. Last season it was Raheem Sterling,
but that was a loan.
Yeah, but still, it was still unnecessary. But for Noni Madueke, I have thought about it. The popular opinion is that it does not make sense for Arsenal. But from the view of Mikel Arteta, I think we might be seeing Saka playing as a 10 frequently this time. We might be seeing, Odegaard playing as a left-sided centre midfielder. This is just me, trying to make a case for Mikel Arteta. This is always trying to, see it from his angle, and maybe Noni Madueke might be playing from the right. We also saw them being linked with Brian Mbeumo, before the news broke out that he wanted Manchester United. But I think we might be seeing more of Saka as a 10. But I don't think Noni Madueke on the left is better than Martinelli or better than Trossard. I don't see him as that type of player. Even on the right, there are still question marks, over his ability. I don't think he's significantly improves that. I don't even think he improves, Arsenal generally. He's one of those players who shows flashes, but you are always waiting for them, to get to that potential. He's one of those players who you usually describe on his day, and on his day is usually few and far in between. So if he comes in, maybe that's what Arteta is trying to look at. Maybe Saka gives Saka a chance to come in from the middle. He gives Saka Odegaard a chance to play in another position. But yeah, I don't see anything beyond that.
All right. Looking at Arsenal, there's Kai Havertz, there's Mikel Merino, there's Trossard, there's Martinelli. What do you do with these 4 players? Now, before we get to that, let's take a look at their starting 11. Potentially, you have Raya in goal. You have the back 4 of Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, and Matiskelly Calafiori. In midfield, you have Zubimendi, who comes in as a direct replacement for Thomas Partey. Then you have Odegaard, the captain, and there's Declan Rice. And up top, you have Bukayo Saka, Gyökeres, and let's assume there's a certain Noni Madueke on the left. Is this a title-winning team?
No.
This is a team that's finished second.
This is
in 3 consecutive seasons. And you just said it. All they needed was a centre forward. Now they've gotten a striker who's going to guarantee you goals.
So on paper, are they better than Liverpool?
I think, in my opinion, I think they were a striker behind Liverpool.
So you look
Liverpool have Salah. They have their own potential.
So you look at Arsenal. Let's look at our starting 11.
Okay.
Holistically, Raya. He has been decent.
Raya
has been decent.
They finished second in the league.
I'm not saying he's a bad goalkeeper. I'm saying he has been decent. He's absolutely one of the best in the league. During Timber also. But his fitness issues.
So Bankole, we can do this for Liverpool. We can do this for Man City. We can do this for every team. This is when you start isolating this as a team. They've shown that what they are missing is a center forward.
This starting 11. Yeah. How is it exactly going to change how Arsenal played from last season?
Goals. Gyökeres.
If nothing changes from last season, we are still going to be seeing the same struggle.
Something has changed, and that is Gyökeres.
I think it goes beyond personnel. It goes beyond personnel. Zubimendi in midfield, Declan Rice and Odegaard. We saw a decline in Odegaard last season. So if you are looking for,
and they finished second. Don't forget they also had injuries.
They finished second, but other teams are also strengthening.
They also had injuries. That's what we don't.
But are we assured that they won't have injuries this season? They don't have depth.
That's why they have depth. They have depth.
No, they don't.
Okay, so I mentioned.
They don't have quality depth.
I mentioned Kai Havertz. I mentioned Merino. I mentioned Trossard. I mentioned Martinelli.
The reason why they were never going to win the league last was because of Kai Havertz. Was because they had Kai Havertz leading the line. The reason why they were never going to win the league last season was because they have a Trossard and Martinelli who could not pull up trees last season, and they are adding another player who would never do the same thing with Noni Madueke on that left hand side. So I'm not saying they're a bad team, but I also don't see them as a team capable of going all the way. They might challenge up to a point, but I don't see them going all the way, winning the Champions League or the Premier League. All
right, from Arsenal, we'll go straight to Germany, where Bayern Munich, Jamal Musiala, a very, very sad one, terrible injury. I saw the game, I saw the injury in real time, I saw the replay, and I couldn't carry myself to see the entire game because my mind just kept going back to that freak injury. But it is clear now that they need more attacking bodies. They were in for Florian Wirtz, but hey, he said, I want Liverpool. Right now, it is very important that they get at least 2 more attacking reinforcements. Nico Williams said, hey, I don't want you guys, I want Barcelona. I ended up staying with his club. They went for Florian Wirtz. Right now, who do you think can step into the shoes and fill the void of Musiala?
So for Bayern Munich, it has ever since the transfer market opened, they've been linked to left wingers. Nico Williams, Bradley Barcola, even Rafael Leao, and I think they'll probably still have to shuttle back to either one of these names. I've also heard Rodrigo also, if he's available, might be one of the names they might go for. But I think most importantly they need a left winger. You have Kingsley Coman, who is inconsistent. You have Leroy Sané, who is moving to Turkey. Mikel Olise also is he has been good, but he can't do the job alone. And then Harry Kane also we've seen a slight decline, in Harry Kane physically. Even in the box, he's still one of the best strikers, but his all-round play has not been what he used to be. So I think they desperately need a body on the flanks. So yeah, all of these names that we've been linked to they're quite decent. They'll come in and they'll do a job. Rodrigo seems to be the best of the bunch. Rodrigo seems to fix would fix a lot of issues for them. He can play on the left. He can play, as a 10. They have the likes of Coleman. They have the likes of Serge Gnabry who can fit in on that side. But I think they also need a ceiling raiser in their team. And Rodrigo is definitely going to be that for Bayern Munich.
All right, we'll have a new segment right now on the show. It is called Start, Bench, and Sell. And we're going to do this really, really quick. For our first segment of Start, Bench, and Sell, we have Bukayo Saka, we have Lamine Yamal, and Michael Olise.
Okay. So I would start Lamine Yamal, obviously. I would bench Bukayo Saka. Okay. And then I'll sell off Michael Olise.
All right. What do you think? You can drop your comments on our YouTube page. It is Sports Pizza on YouTube. We'll go on a short break. We'll give you a video for the week. When we return, it's going to be the Tipsters Corner. Welcome back. Bankole just brings floods of memories watching Peter Rufai. My very first vivid experience of Rufai was the 1994 World Cup. And of course, it wasn't the best Rufai version in France 98, but overall, he was absolutely fantastic for Nigeria.
Yes, and some of the characteristics you look for in modern goalkeepers these days about passing from the back, a goalkeeper he had all of these things. He's the type of goalkeeper who would come into this era, and start for some of the best teams. He would still probably start, for the Super Eagles of Nigeria in this era. So yeah, it is quite a sad one to lose a legend of the game.
All right, it's time for our Tipsters Corner, and this time it is all women's affair. The Super Falcons of Nigeria will entertain Algeria in the final group game at the ongoing African Women's Cup of Nations. And of course, the Women's Euros is currently on. We have Germany versus Sweden. Those are the two games we have for our punters this weekend. Bankole, Nigeria, Algeria.
So Algeria has never been a threat to Nigeria. I think this will be pretty straightforward for the Super Falcons. A win for the Super Falcons would be sufficient. Win and probably over 1.5. Although goals can be risky in the AFCON for women, it's not something that we see a lot. But yeah, a win and over 1.5 for the Falcons seems like something that will be carrying a lot of value for our punters out there.
How about win first half?
Win first half is quite tricky. Is quite tricky because I don't think it is worth the risks. The Super Falcons and Algeria, seeing how it's the last group game for both teams, I think it might start off a little bit slow, and then the game will come to life in the second half. But I think the much more safer bet is the straight win for the Super Falcons.
How about Sweden, Germany? Women's Euros?
Yeah, for Germany, I saw their game against Poland. It was quite interesting. Sweden also have not started off the tournament perfectly, although they are still one of the best, footballing teams when it comes to women. So I think we'll be seeing a lot of goals in this one. We'll be seeing probably over 2.5. The one you suggested for the Super Falcons, we'll see at least a goal in the first half. Also in this game. So, but yeah, I don't think Germany would be winning this game. But that's why I'm saying it's safer to go with goals over 1.5, over 2.5. Both teams to score is looking like the likelier outcome in this particular encounter.
That's all we have for you on the Tipsters Corner. Remember, Sports Pizza is not liable for any bet loss. Please bet responsibly. This is where we drop anchor on today's edition of Sports Pizza. I'm sure you had fun with us. I had so much fun doing this with Bankole Oladuni.
Yeah, I had fun doing this too. It's like I always say, it's always nice to have the Robin to my Batman.
Who's Batman?
I'm Batman. But yeah, for me to you guys out there, it's always nice to be here. Bye-bye.
And from me, Edwin Onyebolise, it is au revoir. Remember to follow us on our social media platforms, and we have lovely content for you on our YouTube channel. Have a fantastic sporting weekend. God bless you.